Hey cats, it's Ed Gale Force Bud here. I think it's time for another long run shoe test. This week with the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro 2. Thanks for joining me here on the channel. Always appreciated. If you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button and also click the bell below for notifications when I launch those new videos for you. It really does help the channel out a huge amount if you give this video a thumbs up like, but also share it with your running buddies. Thanking you, Tar. Gusty conditions and loads of puddles out there on this week's long run. 10.25 miles, that's 16.5 kilometers if you like that sort of thing. Some testing 26-mile-an-hour winds. It was rough. Seemed to be coming from the south this time, though. To be honest, it just seemed to change. Whichever way I was running, it was coming straight at me. It just made any type of pace a real challenge, really, a real stretch. Strava reckoned it was about 8 degrees C, but with the wind chill down to about 3 degrees, it certainly felt like it. Keeping things very reasonable on the run today, 8 minutes per mile, so it's about 5 minutes per kilometre, something like that. I did throw in a few half-mile reps later at something close to my half-marathon pace. Just pretty much whatever I could muster. I did have to switch up the route today for the long run. I wanted to get back out of those windy conditions, which were horrendous really around mile 6 or 7. I got out the wind into some more residential areas, although there was some tree covering there. It was a bit hairy. There's a few branches coming down. Some insane gusts, and I was absolutely soaked to the bone when I got home. Literally everything was wet. I had to wring out my gloves about 2 or 3 times on the run. That's how wet it was. To the shoe now, because I know that's why you're here. A real test today for this one. Sadly left in the box for too long. I decided to get out the old Scots colours here. It really is the shoe of Scotland. I think if there was ever going to be one, it's got all the right colours in all the right amounts. It's always been a shoe as well that I felt a little suspect perhaps in wet weather conditions, so what better way to test it than get out in that? Starting with the upper first, of course. I've noticed the shoe got so wet that some of the dye from the upper, the colouring, has got to the laces and turned part of them blue. Certainly a light and nimble upper here though on the SAUCONY Endorphin Pro 2. Used a runner's knot today with some rather thin socks, probably not the best to wear in those conditions, but the comfort was there and the fit was consistent over the miles. I did decide to call it a day around about mile 10. I was going to go on for another couple of miles, but I'd had enough by then. My hands were completely frozen. One good thing about the Endorphin Pro 2 is that the upper here doesn't really absorb that much moisture in the rain. The only real bit you've got to worry about is back here in the heel section. There's a little bit more material, and that was the area that soaked up most of the moisture. That very breathable upper section in the toe box was great for letting the water seep out. It just vents most of the moisture out there, and there was a lot of it. I still stand by my initial impressions in the upper with the Endorphin Pro 2. Those lace loops here on the lateral and medial sides really do make for an excellent lockdown. It wraps the foot with the grip of a seasoned rock climber, and it felt really assured, I have to say. There was not once I ever thought,
I need to stop in a second and try and retie my shoes to get the lockdown better.
I wouldn't have been able to do that anyway because I'd lost feeling in my hands after about mile 5. No slipping in the heel, and overall a very enjoyable upper experience, but the worst sock choice in the world ever.
Midsole now.
Midsole wise, the firmer, solid yet forgiving Endorphin Power Run PB really does the business at around 8 minutes per mile pace for me. But it's got such range and it really responds when you turn up the pace. You put in a little more effort and the shoe just gives back. Again, it's like that song You Get What You Give by the New Radicals. What a song. Great songwriter. Hated being famous though, apparently. I think such range in a midsole material is a really advantageous trait to have within a running shoe, especially for the long run as well. You don't just want to run loads of very, very slow miles sometimes, especially if you're half marathon training. Perhaps want to get a few in there, or at least some reps at a faster pace. It still presents a really nice responsive ride at those faster speeds, but I find with the Endorphin Pro I can pull the pace back and it feels great too. I've always said that about the Power Run PB midsole here in the Endorphin Pro series. Right back a couple of years ago when I had the first version of the shoe, it just felt one I could put on foot and use for practically any type of run. Does it feel a little rigid? Yes, I suppose so if you're running very slowly, but at some sort of aerobic level it feels great to me. Darn versatile, and it showed that today. The plate here really does perform, gives it a nice rolling vibe, where that speed 2 starts to flex a little bit, perhaps that bit earlier. And I think the difference is actually quite striking, as I've been using the speed 2 quite a bit recently. Putting this one on foot, it's certainly got a bit more oomph. A bit more va-va-voom, you could say. I think the Pro 2 for me has a greater pace range, and I think the Speed 2 is perhaps one you can use on a more daily basis, but thus it's going to lose that snap a little bit quicker. Nothing to moan about here though in the midsole. Very, very nice. Ah, it's still got the smell. Thank goodness. I thought it might have washed away, but it's still there. Outsole now. Sadly, the one place where the outsole just didn't work in that wet weather was where I turned up the pace. On wet road and pavements, the toe off there really still slips and slides. I really felt a bit hesitant, I suppose, to really put more effort in. Not that you could, because you're just getting blown backwards, but yeah, just doesn't cut the mustard really for me in those type of conditions, and that's a bit of a worry, because when it's winter time we get that here in the UK. Traction wise, at easier pace it was fantastic when you're landing on the midfoot, no issue there, but as soon as you turn up the pace it starts to creep back in. You raise that cadence and you just feel that slipping issue start to become a bit of a problem. Is it down to the very solid rubber feel that we've got here? If anything, it just feels like it's this section here at the very front of the shoe where you've got more rubber coverage. How odd. Gotta be down to that pattern there. It just doesn't feel like that here in the midfoot section of the shoe. So I think perhaps if they just lost a little bit of rubber here, it might actually benefit the grip. Yes, conditions were extremely bad today, and I don't think we can totally discount the shoe. So I'll go a little bit easy on the Pro 2 today. You did a good job. Well done. It was tough out there. As such, it's just a real shame that the outsole won't play ball with me in those type of conditions. It does mean I can't really rely on this one if the weather was going to be bad for a race, for example. Just love everything about the shoe other than the outsole. Even the durability of the rubber is fantastic. On my original pair there was just no wear whatsoever after 100 miles. As such, it's a bit of a Cliff Richard summer holiday of a shoe. A fair weather friend perhaps. One for the dry sessions only, where I can rely on the forecast. I don't need to get out my weather rock. Or over here in the UK we call those days the vest and short shorts weather. Andy Fodrunner knows what I'm talking about. So it does rule the shoe out for me for speed work or racing in wet conditions. Just can't rely on the grip. Even up towards half marathon pace there, it just felt like I was going to slip, and you know, a new pattern please SAUCONY in the Endorphin Pro 3. Dankeschön. How has the Endorphin Pro worked for you in different weather conditions? Have you had the same problem as me? Maybe not. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Also in the comments, let me know what you want me to test out on the long run next. Well, I think we've got the Addy Star. I haven't been out on that one yet for the long run. Or the Magnify Nitro. Good thing I didn't go out in that one at the weekend. That would have been like a sponge. Musical interlude time. Been listening to a lot of calming music recently. Stuff that's nice and acoustic, nice and woody, with some feeling to the vocals. As such, I got out the old Cat Stevens album. I got like a best of, it's got a DVD with it as well, some fantastic live footage of Cat Stevens. Really does sound great. Always been a fan of Moon Shadow. I just really like the whole sort of sequence of the track. It sort of builds up and builds up. Quite mysterious as well. Moon Shadow, what does it mean? What's it all about? Always loved Hard-Headed Woman as well. That track is great. Some real guts to the vocals on that one. I've always wondered why no dog food companies have tried to use I Love My Dog by Cat Stevens. It seems like the perfect track. You know, it's got those lyrics in there. He just needs the food to give him strength. You know, it's all there. Why not? I love the beautiful Don't Be Shy as well. There's loads of tracks here where the singer's offering a bit of advice, a bit of help, perhaps if you're a younger person and you just don't know where you fit in the world. I think there's a lot of advice here from Cat Stevens. Go and check it out. That brings me to the end of today's video. Thanks for tuning in. Always appreciated, people. If you have yet to do so, please help the channel out by grabbing some merchandise from the links below. Also, hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications when I roll out the new content for you. It helps us out a great deal if you give us a thumbs up like, but also share the video with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you. guys will remember last week when it was very, very windy. It's worse today. In fact, I'm having trouble kind of staying on my feet holding the camera. It's nuts. Very refreshing though. Be the old windsock. Blowing like a good one today, that windsock. I think the wind's coming from the south, but it's much stronger than last week, so we'll take it out to about 10 miles today, and then I'll go home and sit in a darkened room for a bit. Yeah, you can kind of really see it here with these bushes. Nuts. Right, let's get going. I'm going to chuck a couple of half-mile repeats in just so I can get back a bit quicker. Alright. Hey guys, I had to deviate off my normal route. It was absolutely punishing trying to run into the wind. Yeah, it's certainly a better idea going back this way. Plus the airfield it would have finished me off. And the rain was flying straight in my eyes. At least I get to actually enjoy the run a little bit more this way.